What's going on, everybody? Good late afternoon, starting to push into the evening here. Going to be a very fun evening for me. If you don't know why and you want to know, keep an eye out for a video that should go up in a couple of hours. But we are still here in the afternoon, and the football world is buzzing right now, not because of the Seahawks. The Cowboys and Packers certainly own the spotlight for the time being. They made a monster move, those two organizations. And even as a Seahawks fan, it's hard to not kind of get pulled in by what is going on over there. So if you're a Seahawks fan and your focus is on that, I certainly don't blame you. That is one of the most fascinating things happening in football right now, in all of sports, really. But the Seahawks did break a little bit of news earlier today, although it's less news and more so confirming what most people already assume to be true. I still think this is worth talking about, though, because this is official now. It is coming from the very top. It is coming from Mike Macdonald. He has confirmed the Seahawks starting offensive line. Excuse me. Wow. Ooh. Sorry, guys. Been battling a little something the last few days. But, yeah. Mike Macdonald has confirmed the starting offensive line. For the most part, it is what I think people who are paying attention expected over the last couple of weeks. There was certainly a time as recently as a couple weeks ago where things didn't look like this, but this is where we are now. And I don't think anybody's going to strongly object to what we have up front. So let's go through it. The starting offensive line per John Boyle from Mike Macdonald: Charles Cross, left tackle; Gray Zabel, left guard; Jalen Sundell, center; Anthony Bradford, right guard; Abe Lucas, right tackle. And that is the arrangement that has clearly become the most popular arrangement of offensive linemen that we had seen recently. It's the one they trotted out there in the first quarter against the Kansas City Chiefs when they were playing the starters there. And I think we all knew this is where things have been headed. Now, three of these spots I don't even really need to talk about. Charles Cross, we all knew was going to be the starting left tackle. He had no competition over there. Gray Zabel, all he had to do was show up and show that he could play left guard, and we were going to give him that shot. All he had to do was show that he could handle it, that his length wasn't going to be a critical negative that would just completely eliminate his ability to do it. And of course, Abe Lucas had no real competition over at right tackle. Obviously, the only thing that could have taken him out was injury. So if he's not hurt, which he's not, then it was always going to be his. It's those other two spots, Jalen Sundell and Anthony Bradford. Those are the ones that are a little more interesting, because even though it's been obvious for a while now, it wasn't always obvious that those guys would come out on top. Sundell, I would say as recently as 3 weeks ago, looked like the backup. Every indication we got was that Oluwatimi was going to be the better of the two and that he would get to start. I think that if Oluwatimi did not get hurt and miss crucial practices and a crucial preseason game, actually 2 crucial preseason games, he probably would have held on to the job. And that's always a dicey thing, right? That's always a little bit uncomfortable when you're a sports team and you have to, or you feel obligated to have somebody lose their job because they got hurt. And that is kind of what happened with Oluwatimi. So Oluwatimi is going to be a good backup. I like having him around as a reserve, and that's kind of the place I've always imagined Oluwatimi would end up. I don't think he has the upside to be a starter that I'm very excited about. I think that he is on the lower end of starters in this league for sure. And Sundell, while there is a lower floor, there is a higher ceiling. But it is a little bit discomforting to know that this position was largely decided because somebody got hurt at the worst possible moment. Again, I remember, go back about a month, all the reports were Oluwatimi looked like the better player. And Sundell looked really good against Kansas City. He did. I want to be clear about that, and I'm sure he's looked a lot better in practices recently in order to win this job. But I'm going to say it right now, prepare for some growing pains. By the end of this year, Sundell might be better than Oluwatimi could ever hope to be because he's a much better athlete. And that, to me, is the part of this that I like. He's a really good athlete. He's somebody who can be making blocks 25, 30 yards down the field. Oluwatimi can't do that. He doesn't have the athletic ability to. So that part of it makes me like this. But until we get to that end of the season part, until we get to the end of the 2025 season into like December, don't be shocked if Sundell has problems. Don't be shocked if there are issues. And then, of course, Anthony Bradford, one of the least popular Seahawks of the last few years. Very, very easy to dislike, very, very easy to criticize, very, very easy to get down on because he puts it on tape. He has reverse highlights as an offensive lineman. He is one of those guys that has plays that looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. And this is another guy with tremendous physical talent. He is a phenomenal athlete for a guy his size, just hasn't been able to put it together. I went into training camp this year expecting Christian Haynes to probably end up as the starting right guard. And Christian Haynes got hurt. But there was an indication that he was having problems before he got hurt, and Bradford had already surpassed him. In fact, and this is something that I'm encouraged by, Anthony Bradford was getting a vote of confidence a lot this offseason. There were a lot of comments from coaches during the offseason that indicated they thought he was taking big strides and making positive steps forward and was building up to where he was going to be an NFL starting caliber offensive lineman. And that's really all he needs to be. It's right guard. Right guard is not a position I think you need to dump massive assets into. Right guard is not a position that I think you need to be spending big time capital at. You don't need a great player. You just need a good player. A competent player will do. And then you want the other positions to be really good. And then the right guard gets protected. So I'm not against it at all. I don't hate Bradford the way a lot of Seahawks fans do. It seems to me that he's the guy who gets the most negative attention of anybody on the team the last couple years. And I get why. He has put it on tape that he's not only he can be a very bad player, but he can also be a very visibly bad player. So I'm down with it. Obviously, Christian Haynes doesn't have the strength to play right guard, unfortunately, and he's hurt. And Lomea regressed. So Bradford, this is your chance, but this is probably your last chance. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think Bradford was a guy we needed to give a lot of chances because he was drafted after playing less than 20 collegiate games. He started like a year and a half worth of, not even. I think he started like 15 or 14 games or something like that in college. It was never going to be quick. But this year's probably his last chance. So that's your starting offensive line. And Dugar brings up a great point here. We have one of the cheapest offensive lines in football, if you take a look at this. Like, now it's one of the youngest. 24, 23, 25, 24, 26. Everybody's pretty young. And look at how relatively cheap this offensive line is. We're spending less than $15 million combined on our 5 starting offensive linemen. Right? Cross is obviously taking up a good chunk of that, close to 50%. But look at all the money we're not spending on the offensive line. So unlike previous years where we would spend no money on the offensive line and feel like it was hopeless, I don't think there's that same hopeless feeling in 2025. I think that this is an offensive line that there is at least some optimism for, and rightfully so, I believe. But it is worth noting they are still not willing to really break the bank on the offensive line. We'll see if that philosophy changes in the coming years. But you can see that there is some potential here for this to be a really exciting, young, and well-priced offensive line. Okay. That's it for this one. I'm going to go and get out of here. Let me know what you guys think. Go Hawks. Your starting offensive line is punched in. Where does this go? Does it work? I'm hoping, man. I am hoping. If this unit is good, this team could be very, very special this year. Go Hawks.